Hello and welcome. Today I got a brand new build for you all, and this is a build that's focused on speed. That's right, this is a play with your food build. Now, play with your food is not a perk that you see very often, but if you don't know what it does, every time that we start a chase with the obsession and we either let them go or they just escape naturally, we receive a token, and each token that we have increases our movement speed by 5% up to a maximum of 15%. The trade-off for all this speed, of course, though, is that we'll lose a token every time we do a basic attack or special attack. However, simply infecting survivors does not actually consume any tokens, so we're able to fully infect survivors and then just use one token at a time to down them, and that allows us to save as many tokens as possible. And since Plague is a 115% movement speed killer, we'll essentially be moving at 130% speed with 3 stacks of Play with your food. To add to this though, we also have the brand new perk from the Singularity, Machine Learning, which will increase our movement speed by another 10% for 30 seconds, as well as give us undetectable for that time. However, this is only going to be activated when a survivor completes a gen that we have already broken. However, this perk is a little weird in that you have to actually prime the perk first by destroying a generator, and then actually activate it by destroying either the same gen again or another gen. And it can only be active on one generator at a time, so it will only affect the last generator that you kick. So it's a little finicky, but yeah. And then we have 2 supporting perks, which are going to help make sure that our speed perks are working. And the first of those is Nemesis. Now again, this is another perk that's not used very often, but whenever a survivor that isn't the obsession stuns us or blinds us, they will become the new obsession, and that will help us get more stacks of Play with your food. Additionally though, it also makes them oblivious for a whole minute and reveals their aura for 4 seconds. The aura rating is not very good on this perk, so I wouldn't recommend using it just for that. And lastly, we have Tinkerer, which will only activate when a generator is repaired to 70% progress. It 1 lets us know which generator is close to completion, and 2 gives us undetectable for 16 seconds of that time. This perk will only work once per each generator, so once it happens on a generator, it won't happen again on the same one. And we're going to use this to let us know which generator we should put machine learning on so that we have consistent activations of it. And lastly, the add-ons that we're going to be using are Infected Emetic, and all this really does is increase the effectiveness of our default power by 40%. This will allow us to infect survivors very quickly and pretty consistently, even if they're moving around a lot. You could also use the Emetic Potion in addition to this, and that will boost the default power's infection up to 70%, which is a little bit overkill, which is why I opted to use the Worship Tablet instead. This is an add-on that increases the speed that we can grab our upgraded power, and it also increases the movement speed while holding it by 4.5%, which will allow us to move at almost nearly the same speed by default. So yeah, that's the build. We're gonna jump into some games and see how it does. Alright, so here we go. So I've always wanted to do a Play with your food build on Plague, just because she's one of the very few killers outside of Tombstone Myers that can actually make good use of it. And with the addition of machine learning, I think it really kind of ties this build together. And I'm really happy with how it turned out. So yeah, we end up fighting our obsession first thing, which is really nice to Play with your food, because there have been so many times I've had save the best for last on, and I always find my obsession first, which is generally not the case, or generally not what you want to have happen there. But with Play with your food, it's awesome. You love to see it. And we try to drop chase here just by standing still, turning away from the Claudette, and we got our first stack from it. And you'll see that the cooldown timer on Play with your food is not really working. That's just a bug that's going on with this perk right now. I don't know what's causing it, but you'll see it go off at kind of random times whenever our other cooldown indicators pop up. But yeah, you just kind of have to keep an internal clock of 10 seconds for your stacks just to make sure you can get them when you want to get them. But yeah, so we find a couple other people here, and we're going to do our best to fully infect this Nia. And we actually find Claudette again and start chase with her, so we can get our 3rd stack for free here. And now we can just kind of zoom right up to the Nia, and she doesn't really have any opportunity to react. She started walking there because she was pretty much nearly fully infected, and when you walk, you will not actually accrue any more infection. It only happens when you are running or working on a gen or interacting with something that's infected. So she tried to walk, I guess, to the pallet, hoping that I would just hit her. But we know better. We can just, you know, charge up her power and get her get her over to the fully infected side. Keep finding this Claudette, which is really nice. I feel like throughout this game, she just kind of wanted to be chased, which is really convenient for us that she's our obsession and she wants to be chased. Again, you hate to see that when you have Save the Best for Last on, but if you have Play With Your Food, it's just the best. And she actually leads us over to the Fang here, which we can get pretty much almost fully infected from that one burst of our power. And here we can just finish following it up. The Nia actually tries to body block us from gaining any distance on her, but because we move so fast with 3 stacks of Play With Your Food, we actually can completely ignore the body block and just like catch up to Fang without any trouble. And again, we find Claudette here. She's gonna give us the stack of Play With Your Food that we just lost, which is just great. You love to see it. And we find Meg here, who is the last person that is not fully infected. And we activate our machine learning there, and let me tell you, after 11 games of playing with this same build, I did not figure out how machine learning worked until after the last game that I played. Because it's a little awkward. I didn't really understand why machine learning wasn't working half the time when I felt like it should have, but then I decided to actually read the entirety of the perk. Reading the perk explains the perk, as a famous man has similarly told me. But yeah, it turns out you have to hit a generator twice for it to actually work. Once to, I guess, get it started, and then the second time to actually, activate it. So it's very awkward. It doesn't make a lot of sense. And here, I thought the Nia had a off the record, but it actually turns out it was a really well-timed dead hard, and I did not notice it. Of course, it doesn't matter because we move so fast with even 2 stacks of not Save the Best for Last. Play With Your Food is incredibly good because the stacks also apply to your lunge speed, so you're actually lunging at even faster rate than what would you normally expect. And I think what happened to this Claudette here, I think a few things actually happened. As far as the stars perfectly aligning for us. So as we were hooking the Nia on that hook, our Tinkerer went off, so it made us undetectable. And when you hook a survivor, all other survivors will see a big bubble basically covering up or obstructing their view from everything, essentially. They can't see in that direction. So I think we ended up fooling this Claudette into thinking that we weren't moving towards her, and we were using the cover of the bubble that she was only able to see from hooking that other survivor. And we were able to just kind of sneak up on her, and then she had very little time to react. At least that's what I think happened. I don't think she really gave up there, but it's possible that's the other explanation. Either way, though, we grab her power, and as soon as you grab their fruit punch power, you no longer will be able to save any stacks of Play With Your Food. But that's okay though, because you have your power, which is one of the strongest powers in the game, so it doesn't matter. And we very clearly missed the Nia there, but the entity actually has our backs on that one. It's just like, you know what, she gets to go down anyway. Yeah, you can look back and see what happened there, because I could not explain it to you either. And yeah, so with that, we get the Nia dead at 3 gens, no less. And again, we're gonna try to get this Claudette, who is determined to finish this gen. And we are determined to not let her finish that gen. And I thought she was gonna drop that pallet there, but she ends up not doing that, so I kind of end up wasting my event invitation to give me a temporary enduring effect. But that's fine, because we get the down regardless. And unfortunately, they did end up finishing that gen by Shaq, so we're not going to get any machine learning value. I don't think we actually get any machine learning value from this entire match, but we're not going to give up on it yet. We're going to get that extra 25% movement speed, even if we have to force it or throw the game for it. Because I'm going to tell you right now that machine learning is kind of hard to activate. It's a little finicky as it is, but it's okay. I think when it does work, it works very, very well. And somehow we end up running to Claudette again. And we have our power like pretty much ready, so yeah, she goes down in no time at all. And unfortunately, they all cleanse at the same time. The remaining survivors cleanse at the same time, which basically forces us to lose all of our fountains and gives us one last use of our power. But that's okay though, we don't really care about using our Fruit Punch because this build is not designed for using our Fruit Punch. We don't care if survivors don't cleanse at all. In fact, that's actually kind of better for us because we can just zoom up to them no matter where they are, pretty much. We can outplay some impressive god palettes with 3 stacks of play with your food. And that is extra so when we have everything going on. It really doesn't matter how safe our survivor thinks they are. We can catch up to them. And here I get a little audio bug, I guess. It's, I swear that when I walked into the doorway here, I didn't hear the generator. And it's actually, I guess for some reason, when I walk through that doorway, I just don't hear this generator at all. It sounds like it has 0 progress on it. It just cuts out for some reason, and yeah, I don't know. Just a weird audio bug. There's a lot of bugs coming on with this patch, but that's okay. There's nothing too game breaking, at least from what I've experienced. So at least there's that. So they do manage to get the unhook as I'm going over here to grab an invitation. But at this point, it's honestly fine. There's 2 gens left, and yeah, not much going on. And I think the Fang here has realized that all hope is pretty much lost. And there's not much she could do about it. So, with that in mind, we'll go ahead and hook her on... I think this far hook is, yeah. I hook her over here because in the off chance that I end up needing that hook that was next to that gen, I would rather have that one than this one over here, which is kind of in a weird spot. But it hardly matters because the game's over at this point. And all that's left to do is find Hatch, which we do. We end up deciding to let the Meg go. But she hops on the gate just a little too late into the endgame collapse, so she doesn't actually end up getting out. So when a survivor dies from endgame collapse during the event, little confetti shoots out of the little hand that grabs them. I think that's cute. It's a cute little detail. But yeah, some fairly strong perks from the survivors, but it really didn't matter because we were just too fast for them. But yeah, let's move on to the next one. Alright, so Groaning Storehouse is a map that I think pretty much everyone would agree that is very difficult for pretty much any killer that isn't in the top tier bracket. The main building is very strong, and the generators are placed in kind of awkward spots for you to defend. So as long as survivors do gens, at least a couple gens that are kind of close in the middle, you're going to have a lot of difficulty with this map. So it's very important to defend the gens that are in the middle, because the gens that are very far, far away in the corners of the map are pretty much impossible to defend, and are not really worth your time. However, that being said, I tend to get pretty lucky with this map somehow. I don't really understand how or why, but it tends to work out that survivors will make a mistake on this map that allows me to basically just run away with the game. This game is no different from any of those other times, but it does not make me dread coming to this map any less. So we're able to get our first down very quickly, about a minute into the game, but unfortunately they also are able to pretty much finish this gen. Actually, I think they do finish this gen as well. They're still doing okay for themselves. However, I opt not to end up hooking this other survivor that I downed earlier, and in hindsight, probably should have. But it all worked out in the end for me. I swung there thinking that I might be able to hit her, even if she did make it to the pallet, but not the case. So yeah, I actually don't end up getting pretty much anything done here. There's another Tinkerer happening, and we know that this Meg has just been on this gen by herself. So it's impressive that she's able to pretty much get this done all by herself. And yeah, so we finally try to get her play with your food stack, which we do, which helps out a little bit. And I thought he was going to fake going for that window, but he does not. So we're actually outplaying ourselves here right now. However, we know this Meg hopped back on the gen just based on the sound of her working on it. So we opt to get another stack of play with your food, grab our power, and head elsewhere. It's at this moment that Tinkerer goes off. We have our power all set, and we're able to sneak up on what I thought was would be one person, but actually ends up being all three of them, which is really, really convenient. So you may be asking, why would you show us this game where you would just basically dominate all the survivors on it? And the answer to that is I just thought it was cool. But the other answer is that I just wanted to show how good Tinkerer can be. Because even though it got nerfed, well, I should say, ever since Tinkerer was nerfed to work once a gen, it has basically dropped off the face of the earth as far as usage goes. And even I was sleeping on it until I started playing with it with this build. But yeah, I just wanted to show people that it's still really, really effective. I think probably shouldn't be slept on. So yeah, that's really it. I realized about 5 seconds into this chase that the Ada has off the record, and I'm not going to be able to down her anytime soon. So I opt to just hit her and get the endurance out of her. And we opt to get stunned by that pallet. We did choose to do that, just so I could perhaps get a play with food stack. It doesn't actually end up mattering though. The Jake is actually kind of smart here. He tries to crawl up to this Ada to make it so that he might be able to get picked up by her. However, the Ada makes a little misplay there, and we're able to just down her right here. And yeah, with that, we can just hook everybody and call it a game. And here I think we have probably the most featured map on this channel. And that is really just by chance. I don't really understand how I keep getting sent to this map as often as I do, but I think it's a combination of the matchmaker thinking that this is a bad map for me, and that survivors always tend to send killers here. Because it's a pretty strong map for Survivor, despite what some people may think. There's a lot of pallets on this map, so it's really pretty safe for survivors to do well. But anyway, right off the bat, we find our first survivor and get her fully infected. However, she's not our obsession, but I kind of make a mistake there in trying to avoid the pallet stun there. Whereas I probably should have just let her stun me so that we could make her our new obsession and get a play with your food stack. And I thought she was going to hesitate in vaulting that window, but she's not actually looking behind her, so it's safe to assume that she's just gonna make whatever play seems the most obvious. However, we were able to follow up and get the down pretty quickly and get her hooked before they even finish their first gen. So I wanted to talk about why Play With Your Food is as effective as it is on Play, because I was trying to figure out why this build was working so well, despite me thinking that there's no way in hell that this build should be working. And I think it comes down to how survivors play against the plague. Because more often than not, survivors will refuse to cleanse against plague. At least a lot of the better teams of survivors will try to avoid cleansing. So when they play like that, they're all effectively playing the game permanently exposed. Which means we don't have to lose save the best for last stacks very often. Because normally you would have to hit a survivor twice for them to go down, of course. So you're essentially sacrificing 2 stacks of play with your food every time you want to down a survivor with pretty much any other killer. But if you're playing with survivors that are basically permanently exposed, essentially, then you only have to lose 1, which is great. And add to the fact that we're moving usually at like 15% extra bonus speed, or I guess that's 130% extra speed total. We're very easily able to play this game as an M1 killer. Which is not how Plague is supposed to be played, but hell, it's working out, isn't it? I don't understand. The only form of slowdown and regression that we have for this build is the fact that we're just able to very quickly slap survivors before they get a chance to do anything. But yeah, let me know what you guys think, because if you have a better explanation, I'd love to hear it, because I really don't know why this is working as well as it has been for me. You could also, I guess, say that maybe because the event people are playing a little crazy, but I don't know. Hard to say for sure. So this is one of those nice situations where our obsession wants to be chased, and we are more than happy to oblige, at least for a little bit. And this game in particular, it's very funny because we really seem to be gaining play with your food stacks very passively with this Nia, because she'll just show up, start chase with us, and then there's so many opportunities to go after other people that are much easier to get down that it hardly matters. And the fact that we're not really making it that obvious that we have play with your food, I think kind of adds to it. So we're very easily able to get another play with your food stack here, just because the Nia, again, just kind of runs right in front of us as we're carrying another survivor. And since that gen is pretty much near done, we just make sure that machine learning is active on it. Wanted to doubly make sure that it's working. Because, as I said before, I really didn't understand how this perk worked or operated. And to me, at this point, I was thinking this perk is so inconsistent that I really want to make sure that this is working. But little did I know I was just being dumb and didn't realize how the perk worked. But yeah, so we're able to catch up to this Nia with 2 stacks with player food very, very easily. Normally that's a palette that's pretty difficult to outplay. But since we're so fast, we don't really think twice about it. And now that we were halfway through the game and the survivors have only gotten 1 gen done, they finally finish their 2nd gen. However, unfortunately for them, it is the gen that we have machine learning on. So essentially, with the 1 stack of player with your food that we had and the extra 10% movement speed that machine learning gives us, we basically got 3 stacks of play with food immediately, which is cool. However, we didn't have all the stacks of play with your food and on top of that machine learning speed, but it's okay. Well, I think we'll get there maybe next game. Yep, so we downed the survivor that unhooked the Nia, and in doing so, we also get another free passive play with your food stack, which is great. And we don't hit the tap there because we know he just got unhooked, so he still has his endurance effect. And instead we opt to chase this Nia, or at least start chase with her, so that we can start getting our play with food stacks back. Now you don't really need more than 2 stacks of play with your food. It really doesn't feel like you need that at all. 3 might be a little excessive, but let me tell you, it does feel very nice. And right there, we're unsure if the Nia is going to dead hard, because we know she had dead hard from earlier on in the game. But since the event just lets us have a temporary enduring status effect, we pop it, and if she drops it, she drops it. Not a big deal for us. However, she does decide to dead hard and tries to greed the pallet, so it works out for us. And now the game's basically over. All we have to find is either Leon or Tap, and then the game's in the bag. And I don't think they're going to be able to do much at this point, since most of the gens are pretty unprogressed, and you know, they still have to do 2 of them. And one of them is dead on hook. So it's basically a done deal. All I'm really trying to do at this point is try to get 3 stacks of player food and machine learning on at the same time, which is the whole goal of the video. So it's at this point that you're probably wondering, is this build any good? And I'm going to tell you right now, you probably don't need machine learning. I just have machine learning on because it's fun. And the idea that you could move 25% faster is really fun, and I like that idea. And here I'm just praying that this Leon's gonna lead me to a pallet so he can stun me with it, so I can start getting save the best for last stacks. But he realizes that we are just, in a way, playing with our food here, and gives up. So we're like, yes, okay, alright, I guess we're not gonna get it this game, that's fine. So we hook him, and yeah, we just go ahead, find the Tap, who lets him die on hook, and we're able to down him here, but I just kind of want to give it one more shot, see if we can't get at least 3 stacks to play through food, and then, I don't know, maybe he'll finish a gen or something. I really don't know what I was hoping for, but yeah. We do get a stack of play through food, though, at least. But yeah, he ends up finding Hatch, and yeah, there's nothing we can really do about that. So we see that the survivors weren't running anything terribly strong here. But yeah, no, I think we were able to pretty much dominate this game, and yeah. Let's move on to the next one. Alright, so we made our way back to Groaning Storehouse for this one. And it's at this point this is our 11th game that we played. And we still haven't gotten the result that we want, where we have 3 stacks of play through food and have machine learning activated. So I am actually very determined to force the issue on this game. And here I make a little bit of a mistake and end up chasing Leon for a bit longer than I wanted to. I didn't actually realize he was my obsession until after I downed him. So that feels a little bad that I missed out on a play with your food stack, and because I could have chased the Kate instead, but what can you do? We have to do a little flourish at the end, because why not? We're feeling pretty good about ourselves. We've gone 11 games and we've won 11 games at this point, so it's like hard not to feel good about this build. Just working out as well as it did, honestly. And yeah, for some reason I had like a gut feeling that someone would be on this gen over here, and I was right. We ended up finding the Yin gen. Ooh, we're able to infect pretty quickly here. We do a little bit of a mind game. Well, we do a couple mind games. This one in particular I thought was pretty spicy, just because she ended up leaving the whole tile as it is. So we're able to very quickly, very quickly get 2 downs within a minute and a half of the game, which is really good. Not too bad if I say so myself, especially on this map. And here we're gonna activate our machine learning. Again, I still, at this point, do not understand how this perk works, but so far it's kind of worked out every now and again. And this time we're gonna make sure that we start Chase with Leon, but we don't actually finish Chase with Leon. And we get the 1 stack of play through food just in time, I think, to get the hit on the Kate there, which I don't think we would have been able to get if we didn't end up getting that 1 stack when we did. So it's kind of funny how that worked out. And then as we're picking up this Kate, we get another proc of our Tinkerer. So we come over to this gen, or we try to hook her as close to this gen as possible, just so we can very easily interrupt whoever is on this. Which turns out is Michaela. And she has a sprint burst ready, so it makes it a little difficult to get her. She drops this pallet, and I end up going the long side of this tile, which of course lets her get the opportunity to escape completely. And we find out that Kate is giving up on this. And we're like, okay, we'll take that. This is one of those difficult maps that I don't feel too bad for survivors that give up on this one. And yeah, so that's a gen that we don't really care about them finishing, so we put machine learning on it. Of course, we don't have any stacks of play with your food, so we're not going to get it this time, but maybe eventually. But they do proc it, which is still, you know, you're still getting 10% movement speed, which is pretty fast. And as I said before, it's the same benefit as 2 stacks of play with your food, which is essentially all you need. And I was really hoping she would try to vault that window so I could just grab her, but it doesn't really matter because I didn't have any play with your food stacks anyway, so what can you do? But yeah, we know this Kate is dead on hook because she tried to give up on her first hook. So that makes it pretty easy. And we're gonna, what I think, reactivate machine learning on this, and Yunjin ends up having glass mine. It's unfortunate that we didn't end up starting chase with her before she ran off of this gen, because otherwise we would have been able to get a free stack of play with food right there. But that's okay. But it feels a little bad because we find Leon again, who used to be our obsession, and we can't get any stacks from him anymore. But that's alright. So we got another Tinkerer proc. And Mikhail's a little slow to get off of this gen, but it's okay. We go ahead and start chasing the gen as well, so we can get our stack of play with your food. And we have machine learning active now. I thought it was active before, but it's active now. And that's really just a fundamental misunderstanding of how this perk works. And here I decide to grab an invitation to try to also lose chase with the Yunjin, but I actually end up being full on invitation, so it doesn't matter. And here I actually end up deciding not to go for another stack and instead just go ahead and get the down here. I'm fairly confident that we'll be able to get all 3 stacks later on in the match, so I guess I'm just not really too concerned, and I just want to kind of keep the pressure up. So we're going to go ahead and check on the gen that we have machine learning on. It's pretty much fairly done, so we're just going to, you know, just slap it, have it keep progressing a little bit. We do ultimately want that gen to be done, but I guess we're not really quite in a rush just yet because we don't have all our stacks of play with your food. And here we're just checking for survivors because we don't really know where they ran off. We know at least one of them is with the Yunjin. I'm gonna go ahead and puke on this generator just to make sure that's infected, so if anyone else cleanses, they'll have to reinfect themselves to touch it. This, however, ends up buying the Leon enough time to get to a pallet and I guess camp it, which we don't mind because we actually would prefer it this way. So we get him infected. We're gonna use our invitation to break that pallet. And this Leon just gets like the most perfectly timed flashbang. I didn't even realize he had flashbang, but yeah, he actually gets away here, and it's not because I let him. He just got away. It was really good. It's a great play from him. And yeah, so we don't know really exactly where I went. We're following these scratch marks, but it turns out he's right here. I'd probably attribute this to him being oblivious from Nemesis, but who knows. The game is so far behind for them that maybe they just given up, but it's hard to say. But yeah, they almost have this gen done. Again, we're going to have it regress a little bit. We do have full stacks of play through food, so if they do finish this, great. And yeah, we decided to go ahead and chase Michaela here. She gets to this window, which is a pretty strong tile. And again, we use our invitation to break that remotely, which is pretty cool. I like that little power. Maybe it'll be a perk someday. But here we are. We finally get machine learning active with 3 stacks of play with your food. We had it for a very short window before we had to down the Michaela. But if I had decided just to run around a little bit longer, like I said, we would have been moving. And yeah, I wanted to grab the Leon there, but ultimately didn't end up getting that grab, which means we lose another playthrough food stack, which means, yeah, we are so far from what we wanted in such a short amount of time. But you know what? That very, very brief window where we had all our perks ready to go, that was cool. Chef's kiss, you could say. But yeah, now the dream is over. But yeah, I think we're pretty confident we could just go ahead and end the game here. We decided to just let them both go, just because we finally got what we wanted, and I'm feeling just kind of good. So yeah, there's no reason to hook them. I think we made our point. We could have got them both at any time here. So yeah, we just kind of kick them out, let them go, and we can all move on and be happy with ourselves. Good game. But yeah, turns out they were running some pretty strong perks here, except the Yunjin, which only really had off the record, but that's okay. Again, ultimately, it really didn't end up mattering because we're just, again, too fast for them. But yeah, that's gonna do it for me today. This build, I still think, had zero business doing as well as it did. Like I've mentioned previously before, this build got me like 11 wins out of 11 games. I'm still shocked. I really don't understand. But again, maybe that has something to do with the event and people maybe not being really on top of their game here. But still, I'm shocked. I thought I would have at least lost one, but no, it's crazy. Going real fast is actually apparently very, very strong. So honestly, if you want to try out this build, go ahead, let me know how it goes for you. I'd love to know what you think. And if you'd like to see more videos like this in the future, go remember to subscribe to the channel if you're not already. Leave a like and comment if you enjoyed the video. It all helps out the algorithm, and I'll see you next time.